Hello, welcome to Staring Down the Storm, Autism Advocacy in America. I'm your host, Tabitha Ziegler. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We got a special guest today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Tabitha. My name is Mitch Stevens. I am originally from the Cincinnati, Ohio area. Lived here in Indianapolis for 5 years now with my wife, our daughter. We're expecting another little girl.
Oh, no kidding.
So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah.
And another little girl too.
Yep.
So there's a lot of estrogen in your house.
There is. Yeah. So we joked that I was being bossed around by one female, now two, now three. So, but embracing it, it's been a lot of fun. And, our little girl's about a year and a half. She's a blast, and, it's fun to watch her grow up. So it's going to get crazier for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's exciting right now. And, for this community, and I really appreciate people like yourself that are doing such important work in terms of advocacy. And that's a big part of my mission as well with the book and having conversations like this.
Well, now you've seen a little bit of my crazy town because I had to bring one of my kids along, which that's normal stuff, especially in the autism community. You're often called by the school and said, hey, we have a problem. And you normally have a life or a job, and you have to go and get that kid. So we have a mini guest today, Koa. Hopefully, he'll be rather quiet, but he may be popping in and out. So just to give you guys a little bit of intro into that, you might see a little head pop in and out.
Which is fitting for the show, right?
It is very fitting. This is why I start with the kids, right? Because there is a kid right there, and I know you have kids, and now there's another one on the way. Let's talk a little bit about your origin story, because you shared with me, whenever we began having this conversation, that you have a couple aunties, and we were talking about our coffee conversations. I would assume that you have a very tight-knit family, close to your mom.
Yeah. So my family is all in Cincinnati. My wife grew up here in the Westfield area, so most of them are right around there. But yeah, my family in Cincinnati were very close. I have one older sibling, so my older sister, and then my mom has three sisters. So you mentioned, a lot of estrogen in the house now. That was kind of the case there as well. I had one cousin that was a boy, but it was mostly a female dominated world for me growing up, which is great. And yeah, we're still close, and it's right at about a 2-hour drive from where we live. So we're really fortunate that way. Obviously, I would love for all of the family on both sides to be right here, but we're able to visit a lot. And yeah, it's not lost on me how fortunate I am, and for my wife's family, that we have that support system. So
yeah. Well, I think it's significant sometimes whenever you see men get heavy into advocacy. And I'm noticing there's a trend with strong women in their families. So that's why I wanted to highlight that a bit. Is there anything particular maybe about your mom or your aunts, or, even your sister, that you might want to highlight, and maybe was establishing some of the building blocks of advocacy for you?
Yeah, I think I would definitely highlight my sister, Lindsay. So she had twin boys at a young age, when she was 19, and she's been a single mom since then. And she is just an amazing person, and one of the strongest people that I know. She has gotten herself to the point over the past 20 years, and for her listening, I'm sorry to highlight that it's been 20 years, but both of her boys are amazing. They're like little brothers for me, and we're very close as well. But she's gotten herself to the point where she's been an amazing mom. Both my parents were extremely supportive, especially in the younger years, and helping her out. But she raised two great young men, and she's built herself up from, just a high school graduate, right? Where I think, especially at the time where she was coming out of high school, there was still a heavy weight placed on a college degree to be able to get yourself in somewhere. And she's just become super successful. And, she's the company that she worked at previous to where she is now. She was there for 10 years, I think. And they were just beside themselves at losing her. And I think that that's how she's viewed in work, family, with her friend group. She's the one that everybody relies on. So she'd be the main person that I highlight. I'm just extremely proud of her and proud to be her brother.
And this is your older sister?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's good to give a shout out to your old sis.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to do that, but it's
well, that's why I said we don't have a script here. We talk about it all. Yeah. So, you get some nice little gems there. I'm also there are only two of us as well. I'm the older sister. I have a younger brother. So yeah, I think that there is a really intricate relationship there, especially once advocacy starts, because my brother and I, we do very different things. We've walked very different lives, but I will tell you this: whenever something important comes up, or if it's an advocacy-based issue, I'm normally the first person he calls.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know for my sister, it's not even just with this cause or advocacy. She's the number one person that if I need help with anything, she's the first person that I would call. And I have relied on her many times, especially in younger years. She's about 7.5 years older than me, but just to give a little extra context there. But so whether it's I need help or just with whatever I'm doing, she's always been the most supportive sister that I could ask for. So it's huge to have that, and I know that not everybody does.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's get a little bit more into the meat of the book, because it's a really compelling story of friendship and advocacy. So I'm going to have you walk us through that, because no one knows it better than the person that wrote it.
Yeah, for sure. So the book is titled Transcending Labels. It is conversations that break barriers and build understanding. This is actually the second edition of the book, which will be, as it should be available actually on Amazon and Barnes and Noble as people listen to this. But we're working on making sure that every little part of it is exactly how we want it. So it could be a week or two after this airs, but that's beside the point. The overarching theme throughout it is encouraging people to get involved with and connect with the special needs and or disabilities communities in meaningful ways. And I do this through, there's a lot in the book that, of course, are my own thoughts and experiences. But a big majority of it is conversations that I have. So interviews, if you will, with people that I've gotten connected to. So one of my best friends, his name's Robert Hunt. He lives in the Cincinnati area. He has Down syndrome. He was the manager for our high school basketball team. He was a freshman. I was a senior. We grew really close from there. And still to this day, when I visit, oftentimes we'll go to lunch, hang out, things like that, become really close with his family. So a huge part of the book are conversations with his parents, with one of his older brothers. Had a conversation with Robert himself for the book, and he shares his own thoughts, which I just thought was really cool. And then there's a lot of other people that I spoke with too. So one of my other good friends, he has more like severe cognitive impairments. His name's Stephen Cornell. He's woven all throughout the book. Cindy Gages, who was the director of special education at my high school, had a great conversation with her. A good friend, Eric Thompson, who doesn't have any type of intellectual disabilities, but he's been wheelchair bound with muscular dystrophy since about 8th grade. So it's really wide ranging. And we have a guest as well. Perfect. And another person that I talked to is actually from the autism community.
So keep going. We're good.
Hey, I'm just trying to make sure we're good.
This is how we roll here.
Yeah. So a friend of mine that I used to work with, Susan Conroy, her younger brother, Mark, has autism. And so I spoke with her too. So I really think that weaving those conversations in there is what brings the most value. Not to diminish my own experience and my thoughts, but I think that's
Do you want some airtime, sir? You need a little attention?
I think we gave him the attention.
He's like, I'm good. Continue underlings. Like, I suppose he's the one that's really running the show today.
Yeah, for sure. As it should be. So.
Well, and I think, I'll give you credit here because not very many guests would be able to walk into a situation like this. And I know I gave you the option. I was like, look, we've had to reschedule before because, kid things happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you comfortable with this or not? And you're like, bring him. I was like, okay, well, let's see how this goes.
Yeah. It was really kind of the ball was in your court of what, you're going to know him better than that. It's my first time meeting him. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's part of.
It is probably very appropriate for your subject matter here.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're speaking about your friend and some of the struggles that he has, let's highlight some of that stuff because, being someone from, say, an atypical world or, a normal world, it's hard sometimes for people to relate and to understand or at least bridge that gap to have that little bit of extra understanding or compassion for people.
Yeah, I think that I'll start with Robert. So Robert's the one with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the book as well, but it became pretty clear to doctors, to people that were working with him and helping him early on, that he was on the very high end of the scale in terms of intellectual capability
mm-hmm.
for someone with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great, right? And there's so many amazing things about that. But the way that his parents describe it is that he's almost in a no man's land,
mm-hmm.
Where he's in a situation, a big challenge that like breaks my heart to even think about. And it's so many people in the special needs community, but especially those with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
When most people see Robert, they immediately can tell that he has Down syndrome.
Sure.
And unfortunately, in what podcasts like this and what I'm trying to do with the messages in the book, trying to reverse a little bit,
mm-hmm.
is that people's expectations of that person immediately lower.
Mm-hmm.
On one end, it could just be, it might be a little harder to have a conversation or hang with this person, to the extreme of, they don't even understand what's going on,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is you know what I mean? It's hard to kind of
no, I know. I mean, even just for example, not necessarily that anybody is trying to do anything with ill intention, right? But this is part of the reason why it's so important to have these conversations. Because even Koa, for example, mm-hmm. He can walk around, and people, I think, now are starting to see headphones and at least wonder, like, oh, is that a kid with autism?
Mm-hmm.
They're at least making that connection. Like, someone might have a sensory sensitivity and that's why they're wearing headphones. But if, say, he wasn't wearing headphones and he was somewhere and then he starts flapping, which is a response often when he's excited and when he's happy, that throws people off because they're like, oh my God, what's that kid doing? And because they haven't seen enough kids like in mainstream, if you will. And this is also why it's so important, right? To like truly get fair representation in all areas of media, mm-hmm. because then people won't have that shock factor, right? Like whether it's Down syndrome or autism, and they're doing better, right? But we're still not there yet. And I think a lot of people, they still struggle. Like they've overcome that hurdle now of things like heart disease, right? Like, oh, well, somebody might be predisposed to heart disease. They might be more inclined to have a stroke than someone else based upon their genetic makeup. But they haven't quite made that connection with autism. And people really struggle still with believing, for a variety of reasons, that autism is a genetic disorder. Mm-hmm. It can happen in other realms, but it's predominantly genetic. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things where it's like where you find one, you find many. And so if this is a whole subsection of our society, and we're also coming from a society that institutionalized these people, mm-hmm. and we're trying to still dig out of that. And, right now, some of the things that are going on, it seems like we're trying to backslide. And that is where books like yours and podcasts like this, we're really pushing hard with the advocacy, because we can see the forest for the trees, if you will. And we're like, we're on a mad dash to educate as many people as we possibly can, to enlighten them, to encourage them to have conversations, to ask questions with this community so that we don't go back there.
Yeah, part of where my mind goes there too. So Steve and Colleen Hunt, they're Robert's parents.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve talked about during our conversation, when they were growing up, people with special needs were not, they didn't know anybody, because they were, whether it was institutionalized or they, if you happened at that time to be at a school where they did have a program, it was, kind of
Yeah,
just
they hit those
locked
kids.
away and hit. Yeah. And not only is that just inhumane and
Mm-hmm.
extremely sad to think about, and there is so much progress in so many areas, which is great. But for them, they had 3 boys that were neurotypical,
Mm-hmm.
and then Robert was the 4th. So, especially even for me, doing this work, knowing some, like, how there can be so many more challenges for someone with autism or Down syndrome or whatever. Of course, there's a part of you that's natural, that's hoping that's not the case with your own child.
Sure.
For them, growing up in that environment, I feel like it's infinitely worse, because they have no idea what to expect. Whereas if that were to happen for us, for my wife and I, of course, there's a natural, if you want to call it sadness or brief grieving process, right? For the challenges that child will have. But all that we have been able to experience, we'd be ready, and like we'd be, ready to take it head on. And Steve and Colleen had done an amazing job. Their other boys were amazing with Robert. But there's no reason, if you take a step backwards, thinking about what that does to the parents that are caregivers. And that's why, I listened to the recent one with Stuart, his parents,
Stuart Jones.
Yeah, with Stuart Jones, with his parents, with his brother Stephen. Like, what amazing people because you could look at it now in 2026 and say, well, yeah, everybody would probably take that approach, but that was not the norm. There's a lot of, it sounded like from what he described, outside pressures from people saying, you know, you can go and, as he put it, I think, you put him somewhere and check in on him, visit him. It's like, that's not raising a child, and just God bless them for taking that approach.
Well, they were trailblazers, and I mean, it would have been very uncommon, but I do think it would have been potentially maybe more common in rural communities, or maybe even religious families, for example, to not have that immediate reaction, or to at least maybe pause and question. I've heard more of those stories in Indiana. I'm not saying that there aren't stories, nationwide, but I do think it hits on something particular about that, like, Hoosier grit, where it's like, nah, you know what? This is my child. And there's something, I'm sure you've learned this by now. There's something about Hoosiers that's like, it doesn't matter where you fall, what, like, socioeconomic background you're from. There's this like deep resilience and grit, and they don't like to be told what to do. So like, no, sir, I don't think so. So when he said that, I was like, no, that's like, that checks out.
Yeah.
Even back then, like 1950s, 1960s. And, I have another story that happened in my town. And I mean, I was born in 1983, so I know I'm a bit older than you. But one of the moms of one of the kids I went to school with, he had a twin that had some developmental challenges. And I spoke to her one day, and she was talking about how, she approached the school and said, you are going to give this child some type of education. And that was probably in the 1990s. So if you think about all that, right, like, we're really not that much farther ahead than back then, but you have these little sprinklings of people here and there that really stand their ground. And they are sort of the guiding light, if you will, for the advocacy movement. And these are the people that we look back on and say, oh, we need to highlight these people and these stories so that we remind people, hey, like that actually wasn't that long ago. Just like the civil rights movement, for example, like that was just in the 1960s. That really wasn't that long ago. And I think right now we're at a moment historically where when we are having despair, like mass despair, it's important to reach back and find those like glimmering hope stories and push them forward. So I'm glad that you're telling these stories.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. What do you think happened to you as a child that you're like, I'm just a little different and I'm going to stand up for people?
I think that, I think that really just starts with my parents, both having a really good heart and heart for people, and just in in the way that I was raised. I don't know that it probably would be a good thing to take some time and reflect more on.
Well,
But
that's an individual choice too. Even as
yeah,
children, we make those choices.
yeah, because that's what we started with, just talking about family in general. Uh, Having a loving immediate family as well as extended family, it's just, like I said at the beginning, it's not lost on me how fortunate I am. And I think especially my mom really
Mm-hmm.
has
Mm-hmm.
a heart for, they used to joke with me that I got some of my sensitivity, and being overly emotional at times,
Mm-hmm.
crying at the movie, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
from my
Mm-hmm.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thankful for that. And then I think that just really started to show up in high school when I was connected to this after school group. There's the students with special needs there, and I fell in love with being around them
Mm-hmm.
from that point.
Well, the reason I'm asking you these questions is because right now there's seems to be this very strong, very like caveman brutality sort of masculinity that's been like being pushed.
Mhm.
And so when I run into a guy that seems like he does have some sensitivity, for those parents out there that are like, I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And I know that I'm not going to do everything right. But what little tidbits could you give those parents right now that are maybe watching this interview and they're thinking, how do I make my kid into you? What would you recommend? What would you recommend for that? Like, how do they help make their child a better human?
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that. Those are very kind words. I'm by no means perfect. Uh, and I think that that masculinity piece, I do think there's always the bad end of
Mm-hmm.
the spectrum, for lack of a better word, with anything and where we're at in our society. So
Mm-hmm.
you can always point to, certain groups of people that it's just like they are back in the 1960s with
Yeah.
whatever it is. And that's probably the same thing with masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think it's just so well documented now at this point that there's a propensity in general for men to push down their feelings and suppress them, and that's being tough.
Mm.
And I think that there's a little bit of especially if you're married, you have children, there's definitely this provider protector type of
Sure.
mentality. But for me, I draw way more on my faith in God and
Mm-hmm.
showing up in the right ways in terms of that,
Sure.
than the old school provide, because the old school provider type of thing is like, I need to make enough not just enough money to help my family, but
Mm-hmm.
I also need to make more than my wife, and I
Mm.
need to prioritize work over all these different things. And it's just like, that's not what you're going to look back on at the end of life and be like, thank goodness I made those extra calls and closed that deal, because
Mm.
now my daughters are really proud. Like it's like when you put it in that type of
Mm.
perspective, it's an easy answer, but I think it is tougher to make the decisions every day. I think this is just me, but long-winded answer there. But in going back to your original question, I think if you are working to raise your kids to have a heart for other people, to understand that as humans, no matter who the person is, somebody that's neurotypical or, with special needs or disabilities, you're going to judge them as soon as you see them, hear them talk, whatever. We just have snap judgments no matter what. Teaching them to look past those and really get to know the actual human being. I think that is the real kind of heart for people. And if you're also trying to teach them to be someone that is curious and always looking to grow, that is really where, like, as much as I really, appreciate the kind words there at the beginning of the question, like, that's what I'm most proud of is I think that there's just really a laser focus on where do I need to grow and get better? Because if you take your eye off of that for a day, you go backwards with no matter what area you're working on.
Well, I think it's important to have these conversations because I have a lot of conversations about advocacy in general. And every opportunity that I get whenever there's a man sitting next to me, I like to push on that a little bit because I think, whenever it comes to battle of the sexes or, the distribution of power, like this power struggle, I've always been one. I think maybe I probably push harder and I probably also reach across the aisle harder too, because I very much want change. And I think you can't be in this advocacy or / activism realm and not see that line at some point where it's like, right, I can only do so much advocacy by myself versus as a group. So I see the benefit now. I probably always did, but I very much push that in some of these conversations. I'm like, right, try and get to the root of it. Try and give some sort of like realistic solutions. So that's why I'm asking you questions like this, because I think right now it's really important for strong men to stand up and speak out and find other ways that they can educate and advocate to try and push that bar, right? Like we can only make things better if we really stand on our own truth. And that's the only reason I was complimenting you that way, because I'm like, if you're going to show up and you're going to tolerate my special needs child being here, and, you saw the rigmarole with the setup and all the stuff, I was like, this is a good human.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And so, we got to give props where props are due,
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, thank you. I think something that you said there on not being able, there's only so much you can do on your own.
Yeah.
I have a sales background, and in any sales role, I mean, this is not unique to sales, but it's especially prevalent in sales where it's like you sit down and you set these, really high. If you're a motivated person, you set your goal and then whatever, people give you different answers, but 10x it and then go for that, right? And these huge, massive goals, and there is value in that. And so where I'm getting at with this is that I set with the second edition of this, I set a goal at impacting 1 million people through this mission. And I really wrestle with that. There's going to be a piece where I was fortunate to get featured for a magazine article that's going to come out in April, and that's in there. And it's like, you have to get past what people are going to say about it or whatever. Cause I was in my head, like, people can easily look at that and be like, okay, well, this guy just wants to sell 1 million books. And it's like, okay, sure. I want to measure how many people I can impact with it though. And it's like, if, for example, just using that number, if 1 million people got the book, could there be 100 more people that were not connected to this community before and are inspired to have these conversations like me? That's where it's like you're bringing people along. Because with the first edition of the book, couple as a side note for the audience, the first one was I did pretty much all by myself, and it was only through Amazon, and I wanted to be able to sell it in all different ways. And that an amazing woman in our community, Mariah Sharon, who's publishing it, also has a son with autism and is a huge advocate. So she was able to help me with it. but I just kind of realized with that first edition, I just played small and I shied away because of, I don't want to I'm not doing this to get rich or whatever. And it's like, well, if you're just, no one's going to hear about it, right? It goes both ways. So, anyway, that's where my mind goes, is just like, just kind of the shameless plug of the book, because why would I be ashamed of it? It's something that's so important.
Right.
And the more people you can bring along, that's where you make real change, like you were saying. So.
Exactly. Well, I very much appreciate that we're traveling in similar circles. And, we know Jamie Olson, we know Mariah Sharon. They've both been on the podcast. If you've not had an opportunity to watch the podcast episode with David Delisle, you should. He has a similar message. He's also trying to affect a lot of people. He's trying to educate in financial literacy for young children. So let's talk a little bit more about advocacy, because I know we were just talking about two other strong advocates that I know, Jamie Olson and Mariah Sharon. So would you like to say anything else about them?
They're both amazing people. I originally was connected to Jamie a couple years ago. It was kind of just how networking works. So through a friend of a friend, and we just had such a great conversation. And then we met again and kept the conversation going around these topics. And she connected me to Mariah, just knowing about the book. And this was before there was really any thought of doing a second edition or doing any type of work around that. And just have gotten to know both of them really well. And, for both of them, they have a child with autism. And I heard a quote recently. It was a connection I just made. His name's J. Brad Britton. He lives out in California. He's co-authored a book with his son with autism and apraxia. And a quote, I was reading the preview pages of the book, and the quote was, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Right.
And I thought that was a great way of putting it. But I've just, from both of them, learned that there are different unique challenges. For Mariah, we read a couple of her children's books to our daughter.
Oh, okay.
Which we love those too. There's one plug for one of her books is What If My Pieces Don't Fit? It's a beautiful message. But anyway, I can't say enough positive about both of them.
Well, I figured I'd just let you have a little shout out because I know them well. We're good friends. And there's definitely a core group of autism moms in Indiana, but especially in the Indianapolis area. I might be one of the ones that's a little bit farther out because I'm more in like the rural area. But it does seem like we find one another, like the serious advocates and the serious activists, for whatever reason, we always find one another.
Yeah.
And I've very much enjoyed getting to know Jamie and Mariah. I think they're great. So I'm really happy that you've had that opportunity to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So when can we expect this new version out? You said next week?
Yeah. So March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day.
Yep.
2024, that was the date that the first edition came out. So that is the goal. And basically for, I guess, a peek behind the curtain of what's going on, this is like an author copy, and you really probably can't even tell from looking on if you're watching. The picture on here, I love. It's just a little bit blurry.
Sure.
I looked through everything. Of course, everything else is perfect. So I should have literally today or tomorrow shipped in the updated version. As long as that picture is clear, March 21st is the date. If it's not, we might have to go back to the drawing board. So I've also kind of come to terms with that. Like I worked with Mariah on a launch party, and we're probably going to do it sometime in May, or I don't know exactly when we're going to do it. It's going to be kind of like a book signing type of thing. And
well, let me know when it is, because I'll come if I can.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely will. It's just, back to that, you're always growing mentality. It's just like my wife and I both have this, and we talked about it recently, this just like productivity mentality, and just like I always have to be like getting the most done possible. And there's good in that, but I've been working on shedding some of that as well. And this was another example. Like I have this whole launch plan set out and working with Mariah, and like these were the dates and it was going to be perfect because of all this. And then it just didn't work out that way. And it's okay. It's going to be fine. So that's almost more, therapeutic for myself to voice that out than anything else. But yeah, so should be out in a week.
I think it's actually really therapeutic and good for you to say it out loud for other people that are also struggling. I do a lot of things too. And I'll tell you what I've learned along this journey is you get really inventful. I'm very much a think outside the box sort of person. And I think you can't have any connection to the autism and disability realms and not be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those people that would think, right, like, kids with autism aren't very smart. I'll tell you what, that one, he would be considered non-speaking, uses his AAC device and all that. But now you've seen him maneuver a lot, and I would say that he's pretty smart.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that it's so funny. So for me, if you are a believer or not, is neither here nor there.
Sure.
For me, it's from a belief in God and the way things are put together, and just the more that I'm looking for people that are brought into my life and how events unfold, working out the way that they're supposed to, the more that I find those things. And the reason that I say this is that we were supposed to have this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And you had a really fun situation where all three kids are sick at the same time and have to move it.
Several times.
Yes.
They've been sick off and on for like the past couple weeks. And I'm like, I promise I'm not a flake. This is for real.
Yes. So we have to move it back. And then because of that, in between that time where it was supposed to happen and us actually having this conversation, I met with Brad Britton, who I just mentioned. Okay. And it's like I'm always trying to learn more about, like I have a lot of experience, working with people with special needs and whatnot, but always trying to learn more. And I had that conversation with him. His son's 24, and the book, I'm just plugging everybody else's books too.
No, but I think that's actually a good thing, because that's what I'm about too. Yeah. Like, I think that I'm very much, I'm a team player, and I'm make everyone rise along with you. So I think it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah. So his book, it's March 24th that it comes out. It's called Real Words with Sam. So Sam is his son. He's 24 years old. I mentioned he has autism and apraxia, which I learned so much just from reading through their preview pages. Sure. Where, apraxia, the way that it's kind of defined is that a disconnect between intention and initiation. And for Sam, he is not what you'd necessarily say is nonverbal. He describes him as an unreliable speaker, right? So he's saying things that don't mean exactly what he says. And for years, Brad and his wife, they really they just went under the assumption that Sam was not really understanding much of what was going on. And a few years ago, they went to this conference that was on, a program around spelling things out. And this is like, it's so amazing, the things that they've learned that he spells
You're getting
out.
ready to talk about spellers, aren't you?
Yes. And it's like, I wouldn't have had this knowledge if we actually had it at the scheduled time, which is so cool. But one thing that Sam, they asked him, what's the most rewarding thing in your life? And his answer was, when I astound people. It's even longer than this. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's when I astound people with my level of intelligence or something like that. And they're like, what? Where did that
So
come
for
in?
those that aren't aware, I've probably mentioned it in one of the previous episodes, but there is this documentary film called Spellers, and they are walking people through, these adult children. I hate to say adult children, right? They were children, and their parents are talking about this throughout time, and they are now adults. So what I mean to say is, when I say adult children, I mean their parents as well as themselves are in the movie, and they're walking you through that journey and how they got to the place that they are today. And it is astounding.
Yeah. And just hearing his story too, I can try to put myself in the shoes of a parent, because, Sam at the point, I think, is 21, 20 or 21 years, or 20 or 21 years old, excuse me. And, his wife has been she has like global connection. She's like a hardcore advocate. And so she's the one that would know about these different things, right? So she learned about the conference, and he even kind of shares that he went to it, but it's like, they're 20 years old. They're doing the best they can as parents. So they felt like, okay, we'll see, but like, we've already tried this is going to be another one of these things that just, we'll see. Right. And they met, when they first got there, they ran into another individual with autism that had met them in the past. And I think that they're from an area called Fallbrook out in California. And they had the individual with autism spell out, "Oh, say hello to the Britons." And he spelled out like, "Hello, fellow Fallbrookians. It's great to reconnect," or something. And that was where J. Brad had this like aha, like
epiphany.
He just said that with it. So, and there's challenges with it, like anything else. And, when you're having, somebody spell these things out, there's an extreme patience going through with the conversation, but it just opened up a whole new thing for me, which is like, okay, I'm promoting trying to see people, not for their limitations, but for their capabilities. And I even think about my friend, Steven, where I've seen different breakthroughs where it's like, oh, he gets that. But it's like, I need to just operate under the assumption that anyone I meet with special needs, they know exactly what is going on. And I'm probably right in most cases. And it's like, the natural inclination is to think the opposite. It's just, I can't say enough about that book, because it's Real Words with Sam. So his dad's writing, and then there's the book is like broken up where it's like, here's some other questions we asked him and what he said. And it's very cool.
Well, I don't know if I told you this, but that's exactly why I'm running for Congress now. Did I tell you that?
I did not know that.
No, I generally, I don't lead with that, but through conversations like this, and I actually, like, there are a lot of women in the autism community, like, we had this conversation, and I said, essentially, with the things that are coming down the pike at us, we need one of us in those seats. Like, the end road of advocacy essentially is government, because these are the people that are controlling all of the things for people like your friend. And I'm like, how can we expect people in those positions to speak for us if they don't understand this? Like, there's only so much talking and advocacy and lobbying, however that looks, to try and convince someone that doesn't understand. So therefore, we have to find someone that is living that truth. And when we had this, in-depth conversation, they're like, "You should do it." And I was like, "Say what?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then I was like,
good until you're the one volunteered, right?
Yeah, I'm always full of great ideas like that, but I never necessarily like lead into it with like, "Oh, I must be the one to do this." Like, I'm just talking, and I'm like, yeah, like, it makes good sense. It makes good sense if right now we're having problems with autism. Like, right now we have all this stuff going on with RFK, and now there's conversations about institutionalization, and obviously, like, everybody in the autism community and the parents and the caregivers and the advocates, whatever, like, blowing the horn and talking to everybody they can. But at the end of the day, it's like, if these few select people are the ones that essentially hold the power, then that actually is the end road of all this, right? Like, find someone from within your community that you can trust to go there and say, "Hey, explain what this is." Like literally spell it out for these people through lived experience, and find someone that's a strong enough advocate that just won't say no.
Yeah.
And anyway, here I find myself. I never would have thought that I would have ever run for Congress, ever. Like, that wasn't on my my dance card.
Yeah.
But I also never thought I was going to have a podcast. So I guess I'm just that person. So, I think it's awesome that you're leaning into this skill that you have, because storytelling is powerful. And I truly believe, like, through storytelling, like, that's how we make real change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, it's really cool that you're running. And I think the first time I learned that was the most recent podcast. And you and Stuart were talking about just this concept of, because I just learned about spellers, and I think, as I just showed, speak very passionately about it already, and I'm excited about it, and I think it's so cool. But if it were me running, yes, there would be the passion and an advocate, all this, but like you guys talked about, having somebody that it is your day-to-day life, 3 children with autism, you being late diagnosed autism, like there's so much more power in that, like opportunity to actually make a difference. So.
But, like, don't discount your advocacy either, right? Because to have these conversations and to have people truly be passionate, like you all will actually be the ones that make just as much difference potentially, right? Because, sometimes you all might walk in circles that we don't or that we can't, like even on the campaign trail, right? Like I just had a conversation with Jackson Franklin the other day, and we were just chatting about this stuff, and I said, I physically can't be in all the spaces because of my kids. Like that's not a hang up. I just have to be like more inventive. And I asked him about, like, would he make a pledge essentially to making sure that if he were to get this congressional seat in District 5, which you may live in District 5 actually. You may.
I don't even know.
You may. So, yeah, because, up north here, like that's kind of the zone. Yeah. So anyway, I just say that to say it's important for us to have these conversations and to find people that we can really trust our allies and advocates, or that maybe have enough empathy, especially if they're men, right? Like, I think it's really valuable that he's a younger man like you. And that thus far, here I've had a couple really cool conversations with, like, how old are you again?
I am 31.
Okay. I think he's 26. I'm going to be 43. So just to kind of give you that range, right? It's like, it's really cool to see younger men like you guys stepping up and being like, no, actually, like this is what it means to be a man. And like, we're leading with empathy, and we want to have these conversations, and, we're advocating for the disability community or for women or whatever. And I just find that really appealing right now.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. And, that's why I'm kind of like giving you guys the props that I am, because you often hear not that, right? You're hearing more, not that. So I would like to see more of your type of guy.
Yeah. I
more of you and more of Jackson Franklin.
Yeah.
So if you guys can get out there and like advocate hardcore and be like, this is what it means to be a man, show empathy, hug your kids. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I would love to meet Jackson too, but
I'm sure I can arrange that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I think that, something, because, even in our conversation ahead of this podcast, just like, brief phone conversation, it dawned on me that I'm not really plugged in with what's going on in terms of legislation,
of course,
and things like that. And
I wasn't either.
Yeah, and so I think just getting connected to more and more people in these circles, I'll start to learn more.
Sure.
But one thing that, because I even made a note of a few, I can at times be a little too much of an eternal optimist, right? So I was hearing things from your podcast and different places too of rights being taken away and people trying to, the institutionalization and the possibility of that are starting to lean back towards that. It's like so extreme and awful. So I'm like, there's just like my natural inclination, like, let me find, are there any positive things happening?
Yeah, sure.
And I did, but so there were 3 bills basically that were introduced around this time last year. I'll reference my notes here.
Go ahead.
The key, my note I have here is the key here, unfortunately, and I know some of these things can take time, but none of them have passed.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, they get brought about, and the way I almost view it is like the way that social media and just media cycles go in general is that the average person that is, that would just be in support of people with special needs getting basic rights or whatever the case may be. They might see, wow, that's good. They brought about this bill. They forget about it the next day. And it's like, oh, well, it never actually got passed. So there's like this facade being put up that there are things happening. So a couple of them, so there's the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. So this one stood out to me because the way it was written on this site is that it would help autistic individuals earn and save money without risking federal benefits. We talked about this in the book with Robert, where his parents looked into a smart home.
Yep.
They were just kind of eyeballing it, and it probably wasn't going to be the fit for him anyway. But they found out he makes too much money.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does that make sense? You know, so it's like he's high functioning and motivated enough to hold a really good job. He's penalized for it.
Right.
So I think that things like that are great that they're working on it. Oh, we had a shoe malfunction.
Oh, it's a sock off.
Okay. I'll be interested to see what stays in and what doesn't, but I feel like some of these can go right into the video and people will enjoy.
You know, if for nothing else, I am 100% authentic because I feel like people need to see this stuff. You know, did I have plans today to bring my child? No. But would it potentially bring value to people? Would it bring an awareness? Absolutely, because everybody's around kids in general, right? It might benefit someone to be like, oh, that's what an autistic kid looks like. Like not all autistic children are the same, right? But the more that you see and the more that you see how that works, you're like, oh, you know, like maybe life is hard, but maybe if we gave them, you know, some more social services or some more benefit or like ABA services, because right now we're dialing that back in Indiana. The more that people see these kids or see these adults and see how they thrive and how much more independent they can be with like a little bit of support, we're not even talking a lot. We're talking like a little bit, like just like the human decency portion. They can do so much. And why wouldn't everybody? I mean, we want to be independent, right? Like we want to do what we want to do and be able to function in society. And if all it takes is just a little bit, and plus, I just have to say this because I wouldn't be me if I didn't say it. I think I read it's like we could provide, I think it was Medicaid for 124,000 people with $1 billion. I'll have to check myself on that. But anyway, I mean, we're just blazing through money in that war in Iran right now. And I'm like, you know, you've lost a little bit of your traction. Now you've said to all these people, especially the disabled community, right? Like, we're going to make you jump through all these hoops to let you try and get the benefits that you already had and make you fight extra hard for it and hope that you screw up your paperwork so that you don't get it anymore. But we're just going to give a blank check to, you know, the Pentagon so they can bomb these poor brown people over there. I just think it's ridiculous.
I was just there's a completely unrelated podcast. Well, I guess not totally unrelated.
I mean, it's all sort of related.
Yeah, right. They're talking politics and current events. And
yeah.
Not to get too deep down the war.
That's okay. I mean, we do all the. I mean, I think these are normal American conversations. So let's say any of my friends in Europe are watching right now, right? It might be a value of them to hear a podcast like this and be like, oh, they're actually having these like the American public is actually also having these conversations.
Yeah. I think it was brought up on this podcast I was listening to, and I sort of realized I agree with the guy is. For a long time now, there's been this, well, we need to go in there because there's this evil dictator that's doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Probably the case, you know, at the time that's been said. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in there, you know, bomb them. We're going to take over, and then we're going to reestablish a really good government, and they're going to be back to how they were and in a really good society. And there's just not very much evidence that we've ever done that successfully. And we're sending people's, you know, kids into harm's way to do this. Tons and tons and tons of money. You know, apparently they'll just keep printing more, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely, and then with the most recent one, it's like, okay, yeah, it was successful in all these different ways. And then the elementary school, it's like, okay, well, I don't know how you, and we've also gotten so like, well, I define myself as a conservative, and that means that because of this administration, I'm going to
carte blanche
no matter what. And the reverse is the same for a lot of people too. It's like when it was, you know, Democrats in power, it was just like, you're going to use those biases, no matter what they're doing, to be like, well, let me find the reasons why they had to do this. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, we should all as Americans be on the same team here and realize maybe there's a lot of bad things happening from the U.S. government, not one side or the other.
Well, I think, this is why now you see the rise of the progressives because, everybody does have different viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
But this is just my opinion, right? I'm not going to speak for everyone. But and this is why I would consider myself a progressive, because I'm like, right, I'm already a humanist. And so therefore I'm a progressive because progressive means change, and I want change. And my parents are actually MAGA, which I think is hysterical. Like we've got like a Benjamin Franklin situation in my house. And the connecting thing for my parents and I that we actually could talk about were the Epstein files, in Iran.
Yeah.
And that broke the watershed where it's like, oh, okay, we probably have a little bit more in common. And I don't think they're quite there yet, right? And this is what I find interesting about the younger generations, which I love. I do think, by and large, let's just say 32 and under, they're much more curious. I think their critical thinking skills maybe are a bit better. They might be less inclined to just believe what someone is telling them, which is great, because we need people thinking and we need people having conversations. And it's totally okay to be like, no, I don't think so. Or maybe I want more of an explanation for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's also very easy to get disillusioned with it, because we're just at a point where I've disconnected from a lot of social media, and
sure,
I'm doing a lot of it with
of course, and you're busy, yes,
and like LinkedIn and stuff for work, but I've cut down on social media use a lot.
Yeah,
but that's where you get news, and it's just like it's borderline impossible to tell what's actually legitimate. So what do? You just believe the things that are driven to cater to what you already believe, because they know what you think. Well, with like the algorithms and stuff. So it's like,
so I guess part of my larger advocacy, like me personally, because I do love America and, I want things to be okay here. I mean, I love everybody, really. Like, I want things to be okay in Europe and Asia and the Middle East. Like, that's what a humanist is. So I'm like, right, since that's part of my skill set, I might be able to give something of value right now. And at least even just in my own, and that's how it started actually for me. In my own social media, I was one of those that I was like, okay, maybe I started some of the social media with the intention to say, draw attention to autism issues or draw attention to my nonprofit, or, trying to do good things.
Yeah.
And then some bad things started to happen. And I was like, right, I feel the right thing to do is transition now. Like, I need to draw attention to important issues, right? Like, even if it's as simple as here's an article, or here's a quote from an article, or just, maybe draw some attention to international news. Like, I think everybody's pretty like set on like the American media is a little untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And I don't think the American public likes that. And anyway, to bring it all back, this is why books, like paper books, I love that they're coming back. Yeah. I love that it's more than just podcasts. Can they also get your book on an audio format?
They cannot yet.
Not yet, but that's coming.
That's something that I want to do, but it's not done yet.
Yeah. But, I just think this push right now for people to be interested to storytell, to write, to, produce books. I think that's of the moment, right? Like whatever that is, writing biographies, filming documentaries, or, marching in the street, whatever, just whatever's moving you right now, especially with the faith base. I have a point here where I'm going.
Yeah.
I find that the faith community right now, we're kind of splintered, and we're trying to decide if you do believe in the tenets of Christ, or the tenets of, Jesus Christ specifically, for example. Those of us that are so inclined that are like, right, like I didn't spend, half of my life in church, learning what Jesus would do, wearing the What Would Jesus Do bracelet, whatever area of the church you were in, to now be like, no, he would be cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
And we know better.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting now that I'm running into so many people that are of the faith community that are like, right, we all have our special skill set and we're trying to move society forward. Like we're trying to reach back, pull back, like interesting stories that will push us forward. And that's what I like about your book.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. And I think from the faith standpoint, something that I just read today, and so my wife's family is Catholic.
Okay.
I was raised in a Methodist church,
sure,
but would consider myself more non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm practicing Lent
Sure.
with her, and
Mm-hmm.
part of that is reading the Gospel of Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
And what I read literally this morning was about the final judgment, and it's basically, Jesus saying, either you fed me when I was hungry, clothed me when I was naked, you took care of me when I was sick, whatever. Yeah. So now you'll have eternal life. Mm-hmm. And they're confused by that. Like, when did I ever do anything good or bad to you? And basically its whole point is that's every other human that you interact with.
Right.
So I think that like, and I probably don't need to do this disclaimer of like, I'm not perfect and do it this way every single time, but
none of us are perfect.
Yeah. So, but it's just, I took that and was just like, man, how can I be closer to that in whoever I interact with? Something I hear a lot about in the faith community is certain people that go to church and they say they're Christians, but I know that they do this, and this. It's like, well, they're also someone that he was talking about that you were supposed to love as yourself. It's like that's a remind, like something I got to remind myself of too, of just like whatever those initial judgments are, moving past those, meeting people where they are, and trying to come from a place of love. And there's just so much of that and so much perspective I've gained with this community when I'm, spending my time that way, whether it's, coaching a Special Olympics or just getting lunch with Robert. Like, it brings me back to that perspective. And that's like, I can't even put into words how valuable it's been for my life. And that's where I want more people to, experience that and put themselves out there and volunteer for an event, because there's just so much they can get out of it. Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at too, right? Like, none of us plan these things, but it is important how we walk through them. Like, I would have never thought I would have had kids with autism. I didn't know I had autism. Mm-hmm. I found out because of my children, because I was trying to advocate for them. I was trying to make sure that, they had as many resources as they possibly could to be as independent, have as many skills as they could, because I recognize I won't be here forever, right? And the more and more that I was in this community, the more and more parents that I met, the more and more kids that I actually saw that were like my children, I was like, right, there's value here. Like, more people need to be fighting for the disability community. And it's important to note that we're all like a car accident away from being disabled ourselves. Any variety of things could happen. And then boom, you're now disabled. You're part of the disability community. So if we are all basically just sort of like homelessness, right? Like, many of us might be just one paycheck away from being homeless. So I think if we can help bridge that gap for people to increase humanity and make them care. Well, not make them, right? But like, maybe you should care. Yeah. Maybe you should care because that could be you. Mm-hmm. I think it's important because there are so many people right now that are like us, right? Like, there are fewer people that have the means to potentially never be homeless or to potentially never lose their house to a medical accident. It would be much more likely for us to say no, a veteran that could become disabled. Mm-hmm. So I think once we start to bridge those gaps, and we can do little things like that by, informing ourselves, reading books like this, just touching grass, if you will. Like, oh, I never really thought about that. Like, I never thought how close I could be to homelessness. So therefore I should care, or therefore I should go and volunteer my time, because that could be me.
Yeah. It's such a powerful mindset to try to be present to as much as you can, because I mean, I keep going back to the faith thing, but
Yeah.
if you are a believer and you believe in the power of God to alter things, it's like you you're kind of like playing God in your mind, even if you don't mean to. If you're
Sure.
thinking like, well,
Mm-hmm.
that could never be me. I would never do that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people who I reference in this book. It's funny. He's one of my favorite people. I've never met him. His name's Hal Elrod, and he has a really successful podcast and book. And it just, he does great work. But a concept that he talks about in terms of not judging other people is that if you see someone do something that's, objectively horrible, trying to come from a place of understanding and even forgiveness, and that if you were that person, essentially, if you were in their shoes, you grew up with the same parents and the same living conditions, you went through the same experiences, there's a really good chance you would do that same thing.
Sure.
And it's like, I think that's such a great way of looking at things. And it doesn't mean that you just shrug off something that's horrible as like, well, I'd probably do it if I were that. But it does make you pause a little bit and just say like, look, you didn't do anything to deserve some of the amazing things you were fortunate to have. We talked at the beginning, like my sister, my parents, the family that surrounded me, the school that I went to, like all of these different things led to me having a much nicer path to go on the steps that I have. So, and it's like, I think a funny thing to point out is like, I say that, and then, like later today, something that is totally insignificant will annoy me.
Yeah, of course.
We all forget it like on a day-to-day basis, but it's like, that's why I love that concept so much. It's just like, it's something that I pray for consistently, is like, like God trying to be present to you, trying to like throughout the day be present to accepting things as they are, and just wanting what I have, basically. Because I just think it's so important.
Yeah, I think it's, it's significant, right? Because I don't think that I've ever prayed so much in my life. And I know that sounds strange to some people, because I have a turbulent relationship with the church too, because I'm also part of the LGBTQ plus community. I was raised in the church, and then I was always trying to find this connection to the church and congregation. And I don't necessarily think that my faith was broken because of my beliefs or myself, but I think many people walk that line of like their faith is broken by the connection to the church or to the congregation. And then they have to navigate back to find their faith internally, or like their own private road to God, I guess. And I don't know. I think that might just be valuable to people to say, because I think there's so many people, especially in the Midwest, that were raised of a faith. Yeah. Any faith. And something happens, and it's normally a human error, right? It's not a God or an Allah or, whichever faith that you practice. It's generally not your issue with that God. It's more so that issue with that human. And I think if we could get back to that, right? Like, humans are flawed, governments are flawed. The normal people, like the normal citizens, are much more alike, because most of us are trying to do the same thing. We wake up, we put on our pants the same way. We're trying to, provide for our families, feed our kids, hope they have a decent education. People are doing that all over the world. So then it doesn't matter whether you practice Islam or, Christianity, or if you're a Hindu or a Buddhist or whatever. Once you find that like common thread of humanity, then it's much more easy to get over those hurdles and be like, oh, well, maybe we are more alike. And I think we should encourage that type of behavior, and encourage, like I said, critical thinking. Like, plot it out for yourself. Like, do you really hate that black person? What is it about this black person that you hate? Is it a you thing? Is it a them thing? Is it a society thing? Is it a governmental thing? Like, try and pull on those threads, and like actively foster thinking, like critical thinking. Try and be a better person, better human, better community member, like, and that's why books like this are important anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would add on that is, I mean, I think it's been like at least the last like 10 plus years now where it just feels like the conversation has been for a long time that the country is more divided than ever.
Yeah.
And I say that almost sarcastically because I'm just like, to your point, it's like, I don't know. That's what it looks like on the news and media, and everyone hates each other. And it's all this, divisiveness. And are there evil people? Are there people that are just the worst in every type of way right now? And hopefully they get out of that. There's that always exists, but it's just like, I don't know, when I go out and about in the community and meet all different types of people, they just want to do their best for themselves and for their family, and they want to be treated well.
Right.
Right. And that's it. Like, and they want to kind of live in peace, and they don't go around actively looking to stir things up, but it's just like, we just see all the little clips. And again, so I want to clarify, like, I know that bad things happen all over the world, and there's bad people, but I just think it's overstated. And that's part of the social media thing that's been good for me. Is just like, if you're just on it all the time, it feels like that's the only thing that's happening. Yeah. It's just like, it's not. There's things like this that are, there's a lot of people, that, are like yourself, that like most of their day to day is spent trying to help people with more challenges than others in the world. That's like about as amazing of work as you could do. I recently joined the board of the Mid-North Food Pantry. Okay. The executive director there, I'll give another shout out. Her name's Kelsey Burton, and all the people over there are amazing, but she just works tirelessly for different nonprofits she has throughout her career. Yeah. And now she's trying to, take so many steps to fix this food insecurity that is right here in Indy. And it's just, so it's a little bit of a tangent there, but it's just like, it's a good tangent though. You see so many people that it's like, oh, really? We all hate you. I don't know what she thinks about anything other than trying to be a good person and help other people. And that's great. We're not, getting into our like political beliefs and making everything about that. And you just see that on the news, like, oh, that's the only thing.
Well, I'll go a step further. I actually think most of our political beliefs are aligned. People just aren't aware of that because there are actors at play, right? That they would like to weaponize your religion, for example, and break you up into factions to distract you from the fact that, like, food security is an issue. Housing security is an issue. Having access to decent health care, that's an issue. Like, there are all these things that we actually, once you are able to have the conversations in person, if you can skip the more triggering parts of the conversations, right? Which that part's tricky in itself.
Yeah.
But if you can get someone to sit down with you and be like, yeah, what do you think about this? And they'll be like, yeah, oh, absolutely, I believe that. Like, right.
Yeah.
What political party are you a part of? And they'll tell you, and you're like, yeah, but I also believe in that. What political party are you I'm a part of. Interesting. And when we have more and more conversations like that, and then I think, like you said, like, volunteer, find where your lane is, right? Like, if you're good at cooking and you want to help at a food pantry, or if you want to help, provide a dinner to the homeless or whatever, like, do that. Yeah. Like, lean into your strengths, find community. Like I said, touch grass. Like, there are some of us, like me as well. I'm not always going to get it right. I try and read every single thing that I put on social media. I will say that. But like, I'm sort of in a position right now where, I need to use it. I can't really step back from it. I try to be responsible when I use it. If it annoys people, if it's hard for you to constantly be blasted with the reality, I understand that's hard. And then finding a couple podcasts or something like that you feel like resonate with you, bring you some sort of like positivity or even good news, right? Just find ways like that you can make yourself whole right now.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too. Something I need to work on is getting past that a little bit to make sure I'm still being informed of things, because there's definitely there's a disconnect that it's like, it's bordering irresponsible for me to just not know anything that's going on. Which
Sure.
haven't gotten fully to that point, but it's leaning more that way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest here. It's hard for people, right? Like, I don't think most human beings, just in general, wherever on the earth that you are located, it's hard to see this kind of devastation just constantly blasting you in the face.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't take it. I can't take anymore. There is that personal responsibility part, like you said, though, where it's like, right, I don't like it, but if there's a certain amount of it that I should do as a grown up and as a citizen of whichever nation to just sort of be informed. And like I said, I actually really like, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. I like the Monty Mader podcast.
I have not heard of her.
She is, she was raised in Christian nationalism, and then she's sort of broken free, but she has all that knowledge, right? So that she has multifaceted conversations with a lot of people. I think that it's really valuable because she talks about scripture. She tries to inform people. And, maybe we all don't believe the same things, right? But just having those conversations and getting out of your own headspace of like, oh, you know what? Like, interesting. I really encourage that sort of behavior because I'm like, at the end of the day, we are more alike than we are different. And if we can find those moments where we see value in humanity, we should lean into that.
Yeah, for sure. And this is something else I talk about with the book is that there's different suggestions and I hope takeaways people will have that maybe don't have as much experience, being around an individual with autism or Down syndrome or whatever. Right. And it's kind of fun. It's almost like a duh moment. It's just like, hey, by the way, any of these tips, just like anyone that you meet, it would be good to good to use it, right? Yeah. Try to be more patient, try to listen more.
Yep.
See people for their strengths and not limitations. It's all things that can apply both ways, but it's just so much more important with these communities because of what we started with, where just the expectations being so low just because somebody has autism, whatever. That's where it's, even more important.
Right. So where can they find this book?
So it will be on Amazon. Yep. It'll also be at barnesandnoble.com when it's first released. And then I'll be working on trying to get it into some more bookstores as well.
Okay. Do you have a website?
I do. So it is mitchjstevens.com.
And where do you have any social media for the book or for yourself?
So, yeah, it's just Mitch Stevens on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and then Mitch J. Stevens on Instagram as well, which is one that I'm not nearly as active on.
That's okay.
Right now. But yeah, I post about the book on there, particularly on Facebook as well. I feel like there's been more of an audience for people that would be interested in the book. So I've been on there quite a bit too.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure and highlight?
I think so. I had kind of bookmarked just a little bit of the book. And so this was from Cindy Gages. She was the special education director at my high school, and great conversation with her that's kind of woven in there throughout the book. And I talked about how I want to, encourage people to get involved and, volunteer, help out, whatever. And this is specific to students that I thought was really well put with all of her experience. So she's talking about specifically for a middle school or high school student, whether or not to get involved in a classroom. And she says, first of all, I wouldn't want anyone to come into a classroom unless they felt in their heart that they wanted to do it. Don't force anything that's not natural. But my suggestion is to give it a try, because what you get back from these individuals who are non-judgmental, open, happy, thankful, generous, and loving is so rewarding. So if you have any inkling at all, even do something as simple as observing them playing basketball. They're so much fun to be around. And I think that was just put so well. And, you just mentioned of finding your lane. It's not something that's necessarily for everyone, but it's just in my experience, I've never talked to anyone that it's like, oh yeah, I volunteered with Best Buddies one time or whatever. And like, they leave that being like, that was a waste of time. It's like, you always feel like your heart is full and fulfilled. And like, man, I'm so glad that I did that.
Right.
And one last note that I'll share before we wrap up is Cindy and I talked about this a lot. And this is a quote from her. And then I add some thoughts to it. So people would tell me all the time, oh, you're so amazing. You're such a special person to do this. But no, the students are the amazing ones. Why don't you see that? I wish I could tell the world that. It's fun to work with them. I'm the lucky one. Don't tell us that we're amazing people and good people for doing this. They are. And if you open your door to it, you will see that and receive the rewards yourself. And I just added that I would imagine that sentiment resonates with anyone who's worked with the special needs community. Of course, it feels good to have others acknowledge an act of kindness. There's nothing wrong with complimenting someone for giving their time to this community. The point here is that you are a saint mentality can be overstated and you get more out of it than they do.
Yeah. I think that's great. Well, for anybody that, because obviously we talked about a lot today, if there's one thing that can be a takeaway for them about you, then who is Mitch Stevens?
Yeah, I think that, we talked about my faith a lot, and that's really the last 6 years. It's been a huge journey for me. So I think if people were to know something about me, what I would want it to be is that I'm an extremely faithful person, that I do my best to honor God with how I treat other people and with how I put my wife and my daughter, soon to be daughters, first.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated you coming and, dealing with my craziness and my crazy little monkey over there. So yeah, this was amazing. And I can't wait to see more out of you. I doubt this will be your only book.
I appreciate it. And really appreciate you having me.
No worries. Well, we'll see everybody later.
We are at a pivotal point in American history. We do not have the luxury to remain silent. Programs are disappearing every day. We hope that this podcast raises awareness and sparks a sense of advocacy in you. We all can make a difference. The important thing is to start. See you next time.